KLR 650 from Kawasaki is one of the most versatile motorcycles ever made. You know, it's a great off-road bike, but a lot of people use this as a commuter bike in traffic and even on the highway. So it only makes sense to have the bike as safe as possible to ride in traffic. And that's why today we're going to install this Path Blazer headlight modulator from Kisan. And what this does makes the bike a lot more visible to oncoming traffic. Now, what about the people coming up from behind? Well, we're going to also install this tail blazer brake light modulator and deceleration warning from Kisan. And what this does is this is going to start flashing your brake light anytime you apply the brakes to let people know that you're slowing down and coming to a stop. The Path Blazer modulators install in between the back of the headlight bulbs and the headlight plugs shown here. While there are a couple of different ways to reach the back of the headlight bulbs, the easiest is to go up from underneath the front of the fairing. To make access easier, I'm going to remove the 4 8mm bolts that hold the front fender in place so I can lower it. Now, once I remove all 4 of these bolts, I'm not going to remove the front fender. I'm simply going to lower it and let it rest on top of the front tire, just enough to get it out of the way. Now I can easily access the 2 8mm bolts that hold the plastic tray in place. And we remove this plastic tray, we'll have good access to the back of those headlight bulbs. Here you can see what the back of the headlight looks like when plugged in. Now we're going to unplug both of these. On the right hand side we've got the high beam, and on the left hand side we have the low beam. Now I'm showing this picture from above for illustration purposes, but we're actually going to come up from underneath as shown by the red arrow. And here you can see how those plugs plug into the back of the headlight bulbs. This part you kind of do by feel. You just reach up behind those headlights until you feel those rubber plugs and simply pull them out, and they will release from the back of the headlight bulbs. And here you can see the 2 plugs hanging down after they've been released. Notice that the high beam has a green stripe around the wire. In your Path Blazer kit, you'll find a daylight sensor. Now, this sensor tells the Path Blazer when it's too dark for the headlights to modulate. In other words, your high beams will work normally after dark. The easiest and quickest way to install the daylight sensor is to use the included cable tie and just tie it to one of your existing cables or hoses up near the handlebars. Now here I'm going to route the plug on the back of the daylight sensor to the back of the headlight unit so that I can plug it into the Path Blazer module. Here I'm routing the daylight sensor up through the cable bracket next to the handlebars, just so it will be next to the cables, and then I'll use the included cable tie to tie it to one of the existing cables. Now we can insert the plug from the daylight sensor into the back of the Path Blazer module as shown. The headlight adapters will install in between the back of the headlight bulb and the rubber plugs that we removed earlier. Identify the adapter for the high beam and install it on the rubber plug with the green stripe. Now install the remaining adapter on the remaining plug, which is the low beam. Now we're ready to plug the headlight adapter plug assemblies into the back of the headlight bulbs. And you'll notice that the back of the bulb only has 2 prongs, one on top of the other. So you'll need to turn these adapters accordingly to get those 2 parallel sockets to line up. And again, you kind of do this by feel. You just reach up underneath, feel where those prongs are, and plug these in. Now we're ready to test the system. Turn on the bike, hit the high beam switch, and see if the headlights modulate. If they don't modulate, it could be because there's not enough light reaching the daylight sensor. Use a cable tie to bundle the excess wires together so they fit neatly up inside the fairing. A Velcro adhesive pad is provided to secure the Path Blazer module. Now, reinstall the plastic tray using the 2 8mm bolts. Then, reattach the front fender using the 4 8mm bolts. The Kisan tailblazer for the KLR 650 is as simple as replacing your taillight bulb. It couldn't be easier. It literally takes less than 5 minutes. Remove the taillight lens by removing the 2 Phillips screws that hold it in place. To remove the stock taillight bulb, press in and turn counterclockwise. Your Kisan tailblazer taillight bulb is a halogen bulb and therefore it's much brighter than your stock bulb. However, you must be careful when installing it to hold it by the base as shown on the left. Try to avoid touching the bulb surface as it could shorten the bulb life. Now I use a microfiber cloth just to prevent touching the bulb, and then just insert the bulb the way the old bulb came out. Now you can reinstall the taillight lens with the 2 screws and then press the brake to test the modulation as shown.